Welcome to The Truth in This Art. I am your host, Rob Lee, and today I have the pleasure to have a friend on. See, not everyone that comes on, despite how the conversations go, is a friend of good old Rob Lee, but this person is. My next guest is a Baltimore-based actor. Please welcome Chelsie Grant. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. It's a long time coming. I think the last time I saw you was maybe at a con.
Yeah, it was Awesome Con. That's where we met.
Yes, well, there you go. So, boom. So before we get too deep and embedded into the questions about, your work and kind of how you've grown considerably over that time frame since then, and more, I see you popping up in more and more things, more and more headshots. So yes. Can you give us the Chelsie Grant story? Like, what was your first experience with art and your first experience with performance? Because, not only are you an actor, you have a background in poetry, you have a background as a content creator for YouTube as well, but acting is your primary thing right now. So if you will, give us your story and tell us a bit about like when you kind of got bit by the bug, the performance, the acting bug and all of that good stuff.
Sure, no problem. So actually, I started acting when I was in high school. I took about 3 courses, theaters 1, 2, and 3. And then I took another course in college, but I really wasn't into acting until the age of 27. I just finally worked up the nerve to do it, even though it was something that I wanted to do in my late teens and early 20s. I officially got into acting because I got let go from my job that I was at Employment Background Investigations. They were having layoffs, so I was unfortunately one of them. And I took the time. This was right before COVID too, because that was about March, and I got let go that December of 2019. So I had a little bit of time to think. Okay, in addition, I'm still job hunting, by the way. But I'm like, what are the hobbies? Like, what are the things that I like to do, but I always put off because my excuse was, well, I got to work. I have grad school. I don't have time. So I'm like, I got time to visit that. Yeah. So that's when I got into it, and I started around officially March 2020, and a friend of mine actually helped set me up on YouTube, helped show me like how to, get a profile pic and a background pic, how to upload stuff and everything. And I started off officially by writing poetry. Some of it is still actually on my YouTube page, and and I was actually writing monologues for myself to perform. This stuff I was just making up in my head, as well as my poetry, and I was posting it to give myself a little bit of experience in front of the camera.
Sure.
And then as time went on, I actually started reaching out to people and asking them like, well, I want to get a little bit farther than I am now. How do I push myself to the next level? And they started telling me about different acting sites like Actors Access and Dragon Nut Connects and things like that. And the one that I started officially on was Backstage. Mm-hmm. And just started submitting for projects. And as luck would have it, or fate, however you want to look at it, one of the producers / writer's son contacted me. This was not even a project I went out for. It was my first stage play in Baltimore City at a community theater. It was Redemption's Last Call. That was my first official performance, and that performance kicked off the rest of my acting projects, but I'll get to that in a minute. And yeah, they brought me in. I auditioned in person. I had to improv, so I had to dance a little bit. No, not dance, sing a little bit. And they asked me if I could learn choreography. And I'm like, sure, even though dancing is not my strong suit.
Right.
And yeah, from there, after I did that play, that gave me some exposure. I went on to make other connections. So I met people there. And that's how I met my mentor, James Lewis, who schooled me more on the business. He's a voiceover coach, voiceover actor, schooled me on some things, like I said. And I met people who put me in contact with casting directors for like background projects. So I met Thea Washington with Thea Washington Casting.
Shout out to Thea.
Cherie McCain, and just several other people that passed me on to different projects. And from there, I did background on The Spook Who Sat by the Door. I did background on We Own This City. And then from there, I started off doing background on this biopic that's coming out 2023. Called Rustin. It's going to be on Netflix. Then I got bumped up. Yeah, I got bumped up to a principal in that. So in addition to that, I was still doing theater. I did their version, Art Fate Productions version of For Cuddle Girls. That was May of 2021. And I was doing all those background projects like all at the same time. It was just like lumped together. Last year was a crazy busy year. And then to fast forward a little bit, I actually did just recently in June of this year, did the redo of Redemption's Last Call at Morgan State University. So
Nice.
that was a really that was a really fun experience. The staff there was so nice. They were so welcoming. They treated us well. It was really dope. Oh, and speaking of improv, I can't leave this out. I actually that was part of my training. I actually went down to Baltimore Improv Group, and I started doing Zoom classes. Well, in person and Zoom once COVID hit. We had to go online. And I did that for about a year, came back the following year. And, I actually did some classes this year. So it was a lot of fun. And yeah, I actually have some other big projects coming up. I just worked my first principal role in a commercial this past last week of October. I can't say what it is right now, but yeah, it was it was so much fun. I'm just loving the progress.
That's great. It's great to hear that, and yeah, and kind of seeing it from afar and seeing that progress or what have you, and yeah, it's good to see that you're doing great things, and seeing that you're moving up and having those connections. Like I went to school with Thea, so I definitely know Thea. She's been on this podcast, so yeah, little
Hey!
city connection there. So since you're in that first like within that first 5 years, right? Of you're doing it, you're growing, you're having opportunities. And I think, 2020 was a reset for many people, some not by choice and not voluntarily. Others is like, hey, here's an opportunity to kind of grow. And in doing this, for instance, this podcast kind of like really took off a bit in terms of people were around, people had a chance to stop and really think about what they're doing, why they're doing it, and really put some thought to it. So more and more content was coming out from this sort of place. So yeah, definitely hearing about that, it's like, oh yeah, you were able to do the thing that you had some interest in, and and really chase it, and that's a thing that's always interesting. Like you put that timeline on it, like I was 20 something or what have you, versus I was 40 and I said time to act. It's like, nah, time to worry about that 401k. So in thinking about it, right, what are some of the skills that you've utilized? And there's multi parts to this question, but what are some of the skills that you've utilized to prepare for a role, like moving into principal, moving into bigger parts or what have you? What are some of the things that you're learning to kind of get into that spot for a role?
So for like part of the training,
Yeah,
for me to get into a role, if that's what you're asking specifically, if I'm
sure.
hearing you, okay. So there's like a whole process to when I get an audition and
Mhm.
having to get prepared for that role. First of all, getting the script, reading over it, familiarizing yourself with it, getting a feel for the material, because that's something that I actually took a acting course that I finished up. I'm planning to take more once I'm able to. It was actors therapy with Kenzo Lee, acting coach / actor, and one of the first things, actually, no, I learned this a little bit beforehand, but he reiterated it. He told us to not just jump right into memorizing like I used to when I would get a script. You have to look at the material, review it, ask yourself the main objective questions: to who, what, when, and why. Who is this person? What's their objectives? What's their motives? And I ask myself, a little additional thing I do is, what adjectives describe this person?
Mm.
What do they want in this scene? What's blocking them from getting what they want? If, of course, there's going to be another person in it. Ask yourself, what do they want from this person? What's their objectives in the scene, et cetera, et cetera. And then it's like a whole script breakdown. So I read over the script, I list those questions, I write everything out, and to try and get a really good feel for the character. And then beyond that point, I think about how I would be in this scenario, because I've learned that acting is really just is living truthfully in imaginary situations. So I always ask myself, what would Chelsie do as this person? Of course, I can't put my whole self in it because it's not me, but just like the essence of the emotions and what I think, like what I would think and feel in this situation. And I just write everything down, and then I start the process of actually breaking down the script, and then memorizing piece by piece. So I just section everything off. If it's something like a co-star, like for a TV series, that's relatively short. That's typically 5 lines or less. I just, that's not hard for me to memorize, but I break down every script I get and, move from there. I'm, looking at what would this person wear, how would they dress, and then, adding to that the mannerisms, like, how would they move? Like, I'm thinking to myself, like, how would I be if I was already on set? I'm in that mindset when I step in front of my softbox lights, and I don't have it up right now, but my blue black backdrop that is typically behind me.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's multi steps to really getting into a script, a character.
Thank you for breaking that down for us.
No problem.
You should have your backdrop. Just have it up. Just like, look, every call I do, every interview I do, it's just behind me. It's just video of you acting behind you talking, right?
Yeah.
It's like, this is meta. So you mentioned Big a little bit, shout out to Big. How's improv like, going there? Because it's a place of performance, it's a place of learning, it's a place of podcasting. So how has it helped you grow, like taking that course and take those courses and those classes and being involved in the sort of improv community? How's that help you grow, as a performer, as an actor?
Big has had a huge impact on my career. As if I didn't mention it before, I'll mention it now. That was actually my initial training. I didn't have any other training, even before, because they say, like, if you're going for TV and film, I'm sure you've heard that some of the best stars, some of the best A-listers, they got their start in theater, which came later for me. But technically, I got my start in improv theater. So that was the foundation. Through that, I learned how to, one, not be in my head so much, because one thing about acting is you can't act within a box. And that was training for me, especially mentally, because I'm a naturally shy girl in real life. And it's crazy because when people see me perform, it's just like, I literally don't even see you. I see somebody completely different. So I'm like, all right, I'm doing my job. But no, Big, doing improv, you can't be afraid to be silly. You can't be afraid to be outside the box. You can't be afraid to make silly noises, look like your goofy self. And that's really good training to help me learn how to get out of my own head and really into a role and not care how I look. If I look crazy, if I look silly, if I look nuts, like it makes you not afraid to go there and really just kind of lose yourself. And then on top of that, with Big, it really helped with, how do I want to describe this? So when I'm acting is not just reading the live lines off the page. It's really bringing the words to life. It's, let me see, what's her name? Wendy Elaine Wright. I'm in a Facebook group that is for actors and aspiring actors and actresses, and she is a talent manager. She, is one of the mods there. She runs that page. And she talked about one of her live videos on Facebook. Yeah, it was Facebook, about how when you're acting, you're creating art with your body, and you can't overthink everything that you do, and she talked about how, do you think, Picasso, thought about every stroke every time he painted something, or, any of the great artists. It's the same concept. So with that, it helped me to like fill in the spaces with the lines, so it would be more realistic. So I'm not just reading off of a page. I'm improvising like different sounds and movements and motions. So I'm bringing a character more to life. That was another thing it really helped me with. Improv really helped me.
Yeah, they've asked me to do some stuff before, and I'm like, I am stiff. I don't know what to do, and I just want to have like, and I like the way that you described it. I almost want to have like a kind of like French character in my head, like, let's go, do it, just be free, flow. I was like, I ain't got it, bro. But yeah, seeing that and seeing people really get all of this stuff out, to really be into what they're doing, be into the performance component, and recognizing that there is a performance. And I think when I look at it, like, the podcast that I did before this was very much off the top. I'm just riffing off the top or what have you, and recognizing his performance to it, and really just being in that zone and not really paying attention to anything else other than the conversation I'm having. Right. And I think that's what kind of like caught some of the folks there big. It's like, yeah, you should do some of this. I was like, I can't yes and it, bro. I don't know what to tell you, man.
Oh yes, of course, the famous yes and.
It's like yes, maybe. I don't like yes. I don't know.
Not yes, maybe. No, I get it. I've been there before, especially in the beginning stages. I'm like, okay, yes, I wasn't like fully going there because I was like, I'm shy. But eventually I got to the place where I'm like, yes, and with confidence.
Like, sure. And it's interesting because, people have get me on this podcast and we'll do interviews and all of that stuff. And I'll tell them like, yo, I'm shy. And they're like, no, you're not. I was like, I am look. Give me something big enough to hide behind. You won't see me. I'll be hiding behind it. I'm shy, stage fright all the time. Every scenario. This is why I like doing it in front of the as I call this computer screen, the glass of fear and shame.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So describe, if you will, your last experience, like on stage, on screen. What was your last time like performing, like acting, and what were some of the feelings that were going through you in doing that sort of like performance? Like, were you like just break down that scene for us, if you will, like
Sure.
What was going on with you? Yeah.
I have so many. I gotta pick one because I've been in some projects, some good ones too. So I will pick the one where I got bumped up from background to day player principal for Ruston. So to start with that, going all the way back, a friend that I met from We Own This City, she actually gave me the flyer to submit all the material as background. This was last year. This was August of last year. And I went ahead and I just filled everything out. I emailed them and then they contacted me for dates and whatnot. And to, come out. And this was in Pittsburgh, mind you. I had to work as a Pittsburgh local. So when I eventually was able to start working on that project, the first day I actually was working on the set of We Own This City. I had a 7:45 a.m. call time. I worked for 12 hours. So I was done at 7, home at around I was home about like 7:45 because I still had to, get myself home and get checked out. That took 30 minutes. I drove home 15 minutes. But anyway, I had to be the next day there at 4:15 a.m., 4 o'clock in the morning, early time. So I had about a 3-hour, 45-minute window. But I was on an adrenaline rush because who I met was the main star, and I got a picture with him, John Bernenthal. That was literally it. That was the adrenaline rush I needed to go no sleep for 40 hours, go home, repack my duffel, get something to eat. My mom helped set my wig because this was a piece not of today. I'll put it that way. And I drove up first time from Baltimore to Pittsburgh, 4 hours. I didn't sleep for like almost 2 days. And I was on set and I got through hair and makeup and everything. The director looked me over. It was just like, because it was cold at that time. It was early. He's looking at me like, oh, are you cold? I was like, no, I'm good. Are you sure? You gonna hang in there? I'm like, yes, I got it. And that was a 13-and-a-half-hour day. And I got to work for some of the best A-listers in the business, just to be in close proximity with these A-list stars. I can't say who they are, but it was so amazing. And that project lasted from September all the way till January. Yeah. But I found out in December, me and other people that I work with were getting bumped up to principal roles for all our hard work. Nice. And I knew they had me in there because I was traveling back and forth for months, every other week between Baltimore and Pittsburgh and Baltimore for COVID tests, fittings, and then filming. It was back to back to back to back to back. Yeah, it was not easy because those were some long rides.
I can imagine, yeah.
Those were some long rides, man. And we actually just wrapped because it returned back in DC so we could finish it up. And Yeah. Being on that set was amazing. It taught me a lot because I got to make so many connections, not only with other background artists, but also, with other, principal artists, and they schooled me and gave me some tips and whatnot. I remember the final night we were we were rapping in DC. Me and several other friends who got bumped up from background and principal hung out with the main cast members at a restaurant in DC, and we talked about our different experiences on set, what it was like working with the other
Yeah.
A-listers and everything. And that experience really, taught me. It reminded me that what is meant for you really is for you, because in this business, you have to take no constantly and not take it personally. If you are
Yeah.
someone that can handle rejection well, you're going to struggle. I had to learn early on, because there were some things that I auditioned for that I wanted so much, and I almost quit acting because of rejection. But that was one of the projects where I was like, okay, no, I'm where I'm supposed to be. I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Just because, no, I mean, just because I get more notes, that's how it's going to be. But you just keep in confidence that what is for you is finding you, and that was for me. That was one of the things that I'm so blessed to this day that it was for me, because it was an amazing experience. It really taught me that, keep going. You're right where you're supposed to be. You're right where you're supposed to be. And sure, other things followed. So I'm not complaining at all.
Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I think it's a good point to kind of segue into this sort of next question that I have, and but I want to yeah talk about that experience where it is a lot of no's. It is a lot of you're constantly under this sort of like I think about the whole casting process.
Yeah.
You don't look the way that we need. We need someone else or what have you. It's kind of the message that comes over, and it's like we need a very specific type for this thing. And I'm
Yeah.
just going by not necessarily somebody, just that's just the climate of it. Even when you read over what the calls are, you're like, oh, I don't fit that, or have you, or and I remember filming because I did some background. My scenes weren't in it for We Own the City, and I just remember it was a long day. I just remember that was a thing, and it was during the summer,
Yeah.
and I just remember it was so funny to me because one of the people in casting was like, I don't know if a drug dealer will wear that. And I started looking around. I was like, I was a drug dealer. I did wear this. What are we talking about? And I was looking at the timeline. I was like, and this was the year I was selling drugs. Just kind of really playing that up. I was like, this is my type. What are we doing?
Yeah.
And but yeah, I think when those sort of longer hours are there, and not everybody can cope with it. Not everybody can. It's not for everyone, right? Like you were touching on a moment ago. Like what's for you will be for you. So when it comes to like you as a professionalism is a conversation that comes up. What traits do you possess that you feel like, okay, this is afforded me well. This has helped me get some of these opportunities. I've heard, not everyone arrives on time. Not everyone shows up for gigs and for different projects or what have you. From your vantage point, what has been something that's allowed you to be successful and like you said, moving up from background to like in a more a higher level role, more of a principal sort of role?
So I'm glad you said that, because what you left off on, as far as time and showing up, punctuality, that's a big one. That I know for me, because mind you, I was one of the people that was out of state.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, out of state. I was working as a Pittsburgh local, and I worked near to half the production days. So I
Wow.
mean, I was filming well, technically I started COVID testing and fitting in September, but I officially started filming in October. But I count it because I did it, and it went all the way through January and then August. And working as many days as I did, I know to this day part of the reason they ended up bumping me up, not only because I had a look they really liked, but it's also because I showed up. And they had the paperwork, because you have to fill out paperwork for stuff like that. And I'm sure you're familiar with We Own the City, where
Yeah.
you live, address, and everything. So they knew where I was coming from, and I showed up every day on time, early, ready to work, not complaining after just driving some 4.5, sometimes 5 hours and back.
Yeah.
And they saw that, and they saw that punctuality. And then on top of that, they saw that consistency. It's like she's showing up every day. And there were some days where it's like, okay, I'm not even getting used. I'm just sitting behind the scenes and holding just, oh, like, okay, they're gonna use me. They're gonna get back to me. And I would be sometimes sitting for 12 to 14-hour days just doing, just waiting to see if I'm gonna get used. I still got paid and everything,
Sure.
but that's just part of the business. And that's what I tell people too. It's just like, if you don't have that in you, because that's knit grit right there. It is not easy. But punctuality, consistency, I say determination, and a really strong mindset. Because if you don't have the right mindset in this business, like I said before, if you can't handle rejection, if you don't know how to handle that, then yeah, it will crumble you. I think I mentioned before, I had some moments where I was like, okay, I got rejected from some roles and I almost quit acting because of it. But something in me was just like, no, just don't, stop overthinking. It's just, you're never gonna know you're never gonna know why you didn't get the role. You're never, like, that's a part of the process. And I've learned recently in the acting class that I took with Kenzo Lee, that you have to treat, when you send off your auditions, I think it's the 5 stages of grief or death.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to treat it like that, because his way of explaining was, it's like, it's your baby, it's something you worked hard on, and you're releasing it into the world, not knowing what's going to happen to it. And when he said the way to deal with that is submit it and then immediately think about something else, focus on something else. Watch that movie you've been wanting to watch. Play that video game you've been wanting to play. Go out for a walk or some ice cream. Hang out with some friends and whatnot. And part of that is understanding that you're going to go through those stages. So, and I do. And ever since I applied that mindset of, like, I'm grieving a loss, because that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the outcome is going to be. You have no control over that. I literally go, if I have them all 5 right and in the right order, I think the first one, I think it's denial, which I've gone through. And then, no. I think I'm right. I think it's denial. Then I think, yeah, it's denial. Then it's anger, and then bargaining, and then sadness/depression. And then I think finally acceptance. And ever since I started looking at it, yeah, it took me a minute, because I'm like, hold on. I got to make sure I got all 5 of these now in the right order. So when I applied that, now when I do apply that to my auditions, it's like, okay, I don't even think about it the way I used to. And recently with the commercial I filmed, that was something that I felt good about it. I felt confident about it. And that's another thing. If I don't feel confident in my work when I submit it, then I didn't do it right. I don't care if I book it or not. If I feel confident, then I did my job. But I felt great about that, and I ended up getting booked for it. But even if you don't, as long as you you did your best work, that's another quality that I find helps.
That's great. And it's funny, like, it's as if you have the questions already. You've kind of gone through everything that I had for the real questions. So I want to kind of stop at that point right there and actually lean into, because I've added a few rapid fire questions since you've been talking. I like to add, I like to tweak as I go along, but I think that last piece that you said there, sort of almost like the blessing and releasing, going through those stages of grief, as it were. I think that's really, really important, because I think we get too hooked onto a thing, and it's just like we relate to it in such a way that if we don't get it, then it's over. I had that happen when it was a radio gig that, I've been doing this for quite some time, and it was just like, and I just had to accept it. I had to take the L, feel bad about it or whatever, and, kind of have that, but just kind of get to the point of, okay, cool. I'm just going to do something else. And, you start going into like what people are motivated by. Why do they go after a certain thing? Sometimes it might be those things that feel a little bit more nefarious of, I'm doing this out of spite purely. And sometimes it's like, I have a lot of ambition and I want to make this work. And other times it's like, I want to impress myself. And, but I think being able to get to that point, and I like the way it was described of, just like, you got to move to the next thing. You can't dwell on it. If you get picked up, great. It's like when someone has, because, when it comes to TV shows now, hey, we got canceled. Oh, no, we're coming back. Grow your hair back out. It's like, look, I thought we were canceled. You see more and more of that. And it's an emotional thing in acting.
Sure.
That's what I'm kind of taking from it. It's definitely emotional when it comes to the acting, the industry, that whole setup. So that's what I'm taking from it. And I think being able to chat with you, getting it fresh gives like a different perspective. So shout out to you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and congratulations on all the success you've had in growing in this field. You're doing it. So shout out.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So now all that goodwill is going to go to waste. Let's talk about some rapid fire questions.
Okay.
All right. So don't overthink them. Don't overthink them. So I got 5 of them for you.
Okay.
First one is, what is your favorite genre of movie?
Horror.
Okay, so right now you're 1 for 1. We're on the same page. Shout out to Shudder. What is name an actor you admire?
Ooh.
Yeah, you can't overthink it.
It's got to be just one.
Actor, not plural. Yeah.
One. Okay. Lupita Nyong'o.
Okay. What is your current phone lock screen?
Oh, my current. Oh, so what comes up? Oh, it is the picture of me standing next to John Bernthal when I'm on this city.
Nice. Did he do his point?
Yes, he did.
That's his thing.
Yeah, I'm standing to the left of him, and I'm close, and I'm got the cheesiest yellow corniest smile ever, and it's him with the serious face, and he's
yeah. Okay, this one I like. When I remember being on the set, the one day that I worked, what have you, and I just remember the food kind of slapped a little bit. What's the best food that you've had on a project? Like what sticks out to you in terms of like food that was available? Anything unique? What comes to mind?
Oh boy, and the best food had to be on We Own This City and honestly Rustin, because one was HBO and then the other one was Netflix. Do I need to list specifically what I had, or
just one thing that really sticks out for you food wise?
Oh, okay. Ooh, all right. So for Rustin, food wise, for Rustin, it had to be their no, I'm gonna say it. Yeah, they're black and catfish.
That sounds delicious, actually.
And, oh God, that was so good.
Okay, here's the last one. We're forecasting, we're manifesting, we're doing all of that good stuff. Describe a role that you would like to play if you had the chance. It can be, let's say, biopic or what have you, which is a running bit I have, because I feel like, the sign of being a great black actor is being a biopic playing another black person. I feel like that's one of the things. So what would be an ideal role for you to play, like at this stage, that you're like, hey, Netflix, we saw your work. We would love to, do this whole movie behind you, just you're the lead. And they come to you with, this is who we want you to be. It's a biopic. Who would it be? What do you think would be the role that you would say yes to?
Oh, for me, I think the genre for it would, if I could play something along the lines of Zoe Saldana's role, Colombiana,
Okay.
in Colombiana, something along that genre. If I could, it could be either a series or a feature film. I don't care. I would do it in either or. Like I've always wanted to do something adventurous like that.
Yeah.
Like one of the goals that I have at a point, to play a role in a major network for something for like that genre.
That'd be cool. I just need to be the background heavy. Just hook your boy up. Just like, hey, I just need some guy that's, yeah, you got it. Whatever Middle East, whatever South American country is, like, yeah, you got it, Ecuador or whatever. I don't know.
No, I got you.
That'd be amazing. Ecuador. That is bad. So with that, I want to thank you for finally we did it. I want to thank you for coming on to this podcast and chopping it up with me, and continue success for you. And I want to invite and encourage you to tell folks where to check you out and how they can connect with you on the social medias and all. The floor is yours.
Oh, yeah, sure. So I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook, just my name, Chelsie Grant. First name, Chelsie. Last name is Grant, like Grant-A-Wish. And I am on Instagram. My name again is Chelsie Grant, but specifically my handle is all lowercase at Chelsie Grant 6. No spaces.
Thank you. Well, there you have it, folks. I want to again thank Chelsie Grant for coming onto the podcast to chop it up with me. And I'm Rob Lee, saying that there's art, there's actors, there's artists, there's, people doing great things in and around Baltimore. You just got to look for them.